What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video, and today it's the Game Week 13 captaincy ahead of this afternoon's deadline. Trying to get this video out as soon as possible in the morning to help you with your captaincy decisions. I think there's probably a few key players that people are looking at and a few key matchups in particular. So we're going to look at those as well as some of the other matches at the end. So if you're enjoying the captaincy series, if you enjoy this video, and if you enjoy the amount of videos that have come out between Game Week 12 and Game Week 13, please do give this a like. Hit subscribe if you're new around here, and let's jump into it. So we'll start with Man City versus West Brom. This really does have all the makings of a prime FPL fixture where there's lots of goals and lots of points up for grabs. Man City at home versus one of, if not the worst defence in the league so far this season. They don't look like they're getting any better over the last few game weeks either. So yeah, 4 to 5 goals. Could you see that for Man City? I know I could. They only put 2 past Fulham. But on another day, that could have been more. And obviously, they put 5 past Burnley not too long ago at home as well. And looking at the defence, so West Brom for the season are the worst. 23 expected goals conceded so far in 12 game weeks. So that's nearly 2 a game. And over the last 4 game weeks, it's actually 8 expected goals conceded, which is 2 a game, right? So if anything, they got slightly worse. But you've got to think of the fixtures that are involved as well. Now, as I spoke on the preview, and as some people have mentioned to me, maybe Fulham are starting to show some signs of improvements, right? I wouldn't suddenly say they're a good defensive team or anything like that. They're maybe showing some signs. I don't think we can say the same for West Brom. I've not seen anyone say that to me yet. The numbers are not looking like that at all. So I'm not particularly worried about captain the Man City player against West Brom. I don't think anyone should be, and anyone probably is either. The only potential issue is they played on Saturday, now they're playing on Tuesday. And obviously people are worried about rotation. And at the end of the day, I can't tell you otherwise. I don't know if De Bruyne is going to start, whether Sterling, Mahrez are going to start, whoever. But I do keep saying, last year we saw Kevin De Bruyne start. From Game Week 9 to Game Week 27, he started every single game. And let's be honest, Man City are not exactly running away with the league. They're behind Man United. They're in 9th, right? So they need to get some wins under their belt. They can't really afford to bench players like De Bruyne. You take out Sterling, you can put Torres in. You take out Jesus, okay, maybe you can play a false 9. Mahrez comes out. Whoever doesn't play out of Torres and Sterling can play on the right. Bernardo Silva could even play there, etc. You take Kevin De Bruyne out, and it's different. They don't really have a player that can replace what he can do. So obviously Sterling is the strongest, but playing Torres, he's played quite well this year, right? You take out De Bruyne, and I'd be a little bit more worried about that Man City team. So I don't think he will get rotated this week. But you just don't know, right? There was a weird pre-season. There's been a lot of matches. He has been rested a lot in the Champions League, though, especially when they were kind of through. So I'm not worried about it. Looking at who else has played, right? De Bruyne and Sterling both played 90 in the Manchester derby. Mahrez, I think, got bought off on 65 minutes. Obviously, you'd expect Jesus to play. I don't think they're going to play a false 9 or anything like that. So minutes-wise, they could be okay. In terms of who the standout captain is in this game, it's got to be De Bruyne, which sounds obvious, I know. But even looking at the numbers, I was quite surprised about just how good he has been. So I had a look over, I think it was the last 4 game weeks, or last 6 game weeks. He's played the most minutes, and he's backing that up. 24 shots in 6 game weeks, and 14 of those are in the box. His expected goal involvement is 4.83. Now that's double Sterling and Jesus, and they have not played half the minutes. They haven't played as many minutes, but it ain't half. And so to double that, that's really impressive. Obviously, penalties are included in that as well. And also, one of the things I really liked is I quite like expected data, so expected goals, expected assists, expected goal involvement, easy to say, per 90 minutes, because it kind of evens everyone out, right? So De Bruyne's underlying numbers are slightly ahead of Fernandes, for example, so far this year. So his XG per 90 non-penalty is 0.33, and his expected goal involvement is 0.73. So that is actually up his expected goals from about 0.2 or 0.21 last year, and it's the same as Sterling's this year. So Sterling's come down, and De Bruyne has gone up because obviously he's playing with the likes of Rodri and whoever else behind him, Gundogan. It's given him license to get forward a bit more. So his expected assists have come down a little bit, but expected goals have gone up. So that's better for us, right? And then I looked at the rest. So Mahrez is 0.25 expected goals per 90. Jesus is 0.29. Like I said, Sterling is the same as De Bruyne. But when you factor in Sterling's more creative and he's got penalties, he's got to be ahead of Sterling. So for me, De Bruyne is definitely the standout. I think this is one of those matches where if you've not got De Bruyne but you've got another Man City player, if they start, Sterling, Mahrez and Jesus in particular, then they are options. Like you could see them getting points on any given day against West Brom. But if you don't own De Bruyne, I'd be looking at potentially ways to get him in, because not just this week, he's good for another good few weeks while Man City have got decent fixtures. Not necessarily the standout captain, apart from this week, because I think Salah's got some good fixtures coming up as well. But if you haven't got him, I'd be probably trying to find a way to get him in this week. I think Fernandes is a good option too. We're going to talk about him in a sec. And like I said, if you've got Sterling, I wouldn't be getting rid. Jesus, Mahrez, they all could have big scores this week. But I think the fact that De Bruyne very rarely gets rotated and his numbers are so good, he has to be the one this week for me. So we have to be fair and balanced about this, right? It's not just Kevin De Bruyne at Man City with a great fixture. It's also Man United. Now, last year, you wouldn't have thought that, right? Sheffield United were quite defensively sound. They kept quite a few clean sheets, but this year they are one of the worst defences. I've spoken about this quite a bit in terms of changing your thinking on certain teams. So they're the 4th worst defence for expected goals conceded so far, and over the last 4, they're the 5th worst, right? So it's not getting any better for them. Not quite as bad as West Brom, but still pretty bad. No clean sheets so far this season. Southampton put 3 past them. Chelsea put 4 past them. So we know they're there for the taking, right? The kind of last year where they would concede 0, 1, maybe 2, right, is gone now. There are teams that can put more past them. I think Man United even scored 3 against them last year as well. And look, people are being a bit down on Man United, and for maybe good reason with Solskjaer there. But despite drawing 0-0 with Man City and going out of the Champions League to Leipzig, which was not a good game, not a good result whatsoever, they've scored 3 goals in 3 of the last 4 Premier League games. So against Everton, Southampton and West Ham. And to be fair, it was the West Brom game where they only scored 1. Right, so maybe you could say that because it's like a team that wants to defend more, obviously Everton, Southampton and West Ham more likely to attack, you'd say, than West Brom. Wasn't great. Same thing could happen with Sheffield United. But in that game against West Brom, there were good chances, right? Fernandes put it on a plate for Rashford and Martial, who both missed. So on another day, they could have put more against West Brom. So Man United, despite maybe that Man City game, which was boring, and the Champions League exit, which was not good at all, and probably not good for morale, I fully get that, they have been scoring quite a lot of goals, right? So we shouldn't forget that. And Fernandes is always at the heart of that. So I think this is a good matchup. Now, the standout, like I said, is Fernandes. I looked at his numbers. They're slightly behind Kevin De Bruyne. So Kevin De Bruyne expected goals, non-penalty is 0.33, I believe I said it was. For Bruno, it's 0.22, so he is behind. But creativity is actually slightly up. It's 0.41 versus 0.4. So he's slightly ahead. And when you watch him play, they're both very involved, right? We know they're going to get forward. They're going to create chances. They're going to get shots on goal. So there's not too much to put between them. I would also give a quick shout out to Rashford. Like, I don't want to forget about him. Some people might have him. He's had 9 shots in the box in the last 4 game weeks, I believe that is. 1 more than Fernandes. But Fernandes is way more creative than Rashford. So it's like I've been saying all season. Rashford, usually his goal threat is slightly higher than Fernandes. But Fernandes is so creative, and he is also getting forward at the moment, and he has penalties that he has to be the standout. So for me, De Bruyne, like, Fernandes is very good. De Bruyne's numbers are slightly better. And also West Brom's defensive numbers are slightly worse than Sheffield United, which means for me, De Bruyne is ahead of Fernandes for this week. But I know everyone will point out Fernandes' away record. I mean, home records don't really mean too much to me. I'm looking at the numbers as a whole. But that is good. They've just conceded 3 to Southampton. Morale is not going to be good at Sheffield United at all. And if you haven't got De Bruyne, then I don't think having Fernandes instead is that bad of an option, right? I'm not saying that De Bruyne is up here and Fernandes is like right down here. It's not like that. Just because I think De Bruyne is slightly ahead doesn't mean that Fernandes is a bad option. So if you've not got De Bruyne but you've got Fernandes, you probably don't need to rip your team up. But I think having both this week could be really good. Rashford, an outside shot on his own kind of merits, but if it's between him and Fernandes, there's only one winner, I think. So I wouldn't necessarily usually talk about a fixture like this in a captaincy video, just because I'm always put off captaining someone in a big fixture like this, especially when there's other standouts, right? But a lot of the players, especially Salah, Kane and Son, are so heavily owned, it's worth talking about. And it's one of those fixtures where if one of those players gets a haul, you're not surprised, but you're also not shocked if it's a really tight game, a 1-1, a 0-0, someone wins 1-0, nicks it at the death, something like that. Because they are, top 2 teams in the league, right? And I think, and I'm fully aware Spurs are top of the league before I say this, but I do think the numbers for Spurs are not looking great, and they are coming down ever so slightly as we get through the season. So last 6 game weeks, their XG is 5.77, so less than 1 a game. That's only better than Newcastle, Sheffield United, Burnley and West Brom. So they haven't been showing a huge amount of attacking potential. Now, I know they've had some tough games in that period, the likes of Arsenal. I think they've played Man City and Chelsea, but they've also had Palace and West Brom and Brighton, I think, are in those 6 games as well. So that's not great. And yes, they've got great finishes in Kane and Son. If they do score, I know they're always usually involved, at least one of them, if not both of them. So straight away, that's good points. But 5.77 XG over 6 game weeks is pretty low. That's basically what Man City were doing early on when we weren't looking at them. It's only when the fixtures changed and got really good and they got all their players back fit that we started looking at them again. So it is a little bit of a worry. And I do think in a game like this, where the league is so tight, like I've said already, like Liverpool were basically clear at this time last year. Not the case this year. They're in second place. They could be a bit more cautious as well. So I do think they're going to attack Spurs, and that will probably help Spurs because they'll want to counter-attack. But they're going to pick and choose when to do it. I don't think Klopp is going to go into this game wanting to leave himself open to Kane and especially Son on the break, right? Son can punish anyone. So I think this could be quite a tight game where neither team wants to lose. The numbers for Spurs show that they are looking to defend when they can and taking their chances when they can as well. Now, don't get me wrong, Son gets a counter and gets one shot at goal. We know he can score, but eventually he's going to start needing a few more chances than that, and he is worrying me a little bit. So I don't think I captain him. Kane is always involved, gets more shots in the box, etc. on penalty, so he could be someone you look at, but I wouldn't ever want to back someone against the Liverpool defence. If I was going to go for someone in this game, it would be Salah, because he usually gets chances no matter what game it is. And for me, he would probably be the one from this game, but personally, I'd rather just avoid it. I just think you don't know what's going to happen in a game like this. Mourinho is definitely going to come out and defend, almost certainly, because if Spurs lose this game, obviously that's not the title's over by any stretch, right? They're still close. But this is like, it's a real test playing Liverpool at any stage of the season, let alone when they're now your rivals as things stand. You beat Liverpool, you go further ahead in the league. That is a massive, massive boost to kind of team morale, confidence, etc. You lose that game and it's like, well, were we ever really good enough? Can we bounce back? Liverpool are ahead now. They've beaten us. And so I think Mourinho will be doing everything he can not to lose the game. And don't get me wrong, he has executed this game plan so well over the last few weeks. But Crystal Palace has shown that Spurs can be gotten at. And Crystal Palace weren't fortunate to get that goal. They probably deserved the draw in the end. So it's going to be an interesting game. I personally would try and avoid. I'd like to have one of Bruno Fernandes or De Bruyne. But if you have to go for someone, Salah and then Kane, I think, from this one. We'll just quickly look at some of the other matches. So I've already talked about the players that I would probably be targeting, but not everyone will own them. So let's talk about a few of the others. So Leicester versus Everton is interesting because Everton just got a clean sheet against Chelsea, but before that, they were conceding plenty of goals. Now, at some point, a manager like Ancelotti kind of says to his team, look, we need to improve this. Here's what we're going to do. Maybe they go for a more defensive approach than an attacking approach. But it is worth saying that I think Chelsea hit the post twice or hit the woodwork twice, so they came close to scoring anyway. Jamie Vardy's just got 3 attacking returns against Brighton, and we know on his day he can just do the business against anyone. So Jamie Vardy could be an outside shot, and obviously Leicester, again, not keeping too many clean sheets. They did against Brighton, but have been conceding goals recently. So Calvert-Lewin you could look at, but again, not a match where I'd really want to target too many points. Wolves versus Chelsea, still not quite sure what to make of Wolves with that back four, but I don't think they're defending that badly. And obviously Chelsea, I mean, who do you even go for? Pulisic, will he start? We don't know. Werner, I just think people have probably lost patience with him. And as good as I think he will be at some point, there's just so many better options. So I think Chelsea and Wolves you avoid. And then, I mean, Arsenal versus Southampton, all jokes aside, if anything, you should be recommending Ings and Adams as a captaincy ahead of Aubameyang, for example. Like, what the hell has happened to Aubameyang and Arsenal? I'm not even going to make the joke about him finally scoring because it's been done to death. But another poor result against Burnley. And honestly, I think the fact that Arsenal keep conceding, like at times, some games I've seen them, I've thought they've defended really well, like against Man United when they got the win. Since then, it's just been poor again. And like I said early on in the season, the numbers under Arteta have not improved. And this year, they're still doing badly again, right? So Ings and Adams potentially are outside punts. And Aubameyang, look, he's just too good for at some point him just to not explode. But it would take a very brave person to bring in Aubameyang, because most of you probably don't own him, and captain him as well. So I'd probably look to ignore it. And Southampton have been playing well, so I think Ings and Adams probably better shout than Aubameyang. Out of all those games, I think Jamie Vardy's probably the one I would look at, maybe Calvert-Lewin as well. But I think the main captaincy candidates are from City, United, and maybe Liverpool or Spurs. So that's it for this one. Leave a comment below. Let me know who you are captaining this week. I suspect that De Bruyne and Fernandes will be the two standout captains, but I do think just because of how good Fernandes has been for people and the ownership levels, that Bruno Fernandes might actually be captained more heavily than Kevin De Bruyne. And so if Kevin De Bruyne is anything like any kind of differential, even if he's just below 100% effective ownership, I think that could be huge this week. So I do think De Bruyne is ahead, but Bruno Fernandes is not far behind. So they would be my top two for this week. Please do give the video a like if you enjoyed it and hit that subscribe button if you're new around here. That is it for pre-recorded videos for this game week now. So it was a quick turnaround, but the team selection, the preview, and now the captaincy are all out on the channel. So if you've not watched all of them, make sure you go back and check them out. I will be back at 3:30 this afternoon for a deadline stream right up until 4:30. And then obviously, you know, the next few days we'll start looking towards game week 14 as well. So the games are coming thick and fast. Hopefully you've enjoyed the content. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you have. And just a quick shout out to Patreon. If you've not already checked it out, there's a link in the description below to patreon.com/letstalkfpl. And a quick shout out obviously for everyone on the Legends Wall. Appreciate the support. There's Slack access, WhatsApp access, extra content. There'll be a Q&A going up there today ahead of the deadline as well. So lots coming thick and fast. Content on YouTube, content over on Patreon, a few extra perks as well if you want to check them out. I'm going to leave the video there. Good luck with your decisions, and I'll see you back here at 3:30 today as we lock in our transfers and stuff like that. I may or may not already have my transfers locked in because I'm recording this before Tuesday, the captaincy video. So I may have made my transfers, but if not, regardless, you'll see them on the deadline stream as well. So I'll leave it there. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later on.